Hi guys, we're doing the Lily Order Dragon Age 2 video. I have with me my good friend Aztec. Aztec has her
Hello.
own channel. I will link it in the description below. Um, Aztec, do you have anything to say about Dragon Age 2 before we start?
Um, it's been a hot minute since I played, but I did really enjoy it when I did play it. Um, it was actually the first Dragon Age game that I played, probably back in I don't know, 2018 or something like that.
Nice, nice.
Um, yeah, so I played them slightly out of order. I played 2, then Origins, then Inquisition, and now I'm currently playing through Veilguard. So
Right, so
I'm
because
decently familiar with the lore, but yeah,
I've
it's
played
been a minute.
through all of the Dragon Age games except Veilguard, but I have all of the tie-in comics that go with Dragon Age. So I'm a super nerd. Just so
Yeah, I'll
everybody's
probably
clear.
look through the wiki. I'll probably look through the wiki if I need reminders.
Uh, really quick disclaimer. Lily doesn't actually play the games and engages in the back lore of anything. If it's not immediately presented to her, it doesn't exist.
I mean, we can't all have rich, fulfilling lives. Some of us have. There have to be at least some miserable fucks among us.
Fair enough.
So,
Okie dokie.
alrighty.
Let's start this shit show.
Okay.
Premise of Dragon Age Origins, a fantasy RPG that was designed around being a spiritual successor to Baldur's
Sorry, what?
Gate, but gussied up to an M rating. In particular, Dragon Age Origins spends much of its time setting up an extremely bigoted, oppressive fantasy world, and then decides to distract you with an evil horde of darkspawn that take up the majority of the plot, leaving you to barely interact with the part of Dragon Age that had any real potential for a story. Evidently, lead writer David Gator hadn't even considered the idea of the darkspawn until lead designer James Olin demanded it be part of the game. I'd really warmed up to the task after some initial trepidation. This was going to be my subversion of the fantasy genre, a world that was in the aftermath of its Lord of the Rings era, where dragons were dead and magic was waning. I could take all the tropes I disliked about fantasy as a genre and turn them on their head, say something about the genre itself. I was psyched. James was less psyched, as it turns out. "Where's the magic?" he asked, after which I quickly learned the difference between creating a setting that made for an interesting reading on the page and one that made for something around which you could build an interesting game. I grudgingly began to iterate based on his feedback, inching toward the version of the Dragon Age setting fans are familiar with today, but the
So
Wait,
pause
this
right
is
here. I
this
actually
is
looked
already.
up. I looked up this
Go ahead.
article. That's not what he's saying. This was his first time ever being a lead writer, and he wanted to incorporate something into the world that hadn't been incorporated before. And a senior writer, James, basically told him, "Yeah, but where's the magic? Like that's kind of what we're going for, not
Well,
Lord of the
well,
Rings."
well. No, what's happening here is Lily's trying to say that, oh, all the magic and the darkspawn and all that entire chunk that gets later fleshed out and turned into like actual lore and shit. Yeah, that's just bullshit filler that doesn't even be included because everything about the oppression and stuff is the actual interesting part that should have been the focus. When what's being said here is that when he was first working on the game, he wrote this really interesting concept with like the oppressive world without the magic and stuff. But that the lead the other
Writer.
well, the director or whoever the fuck,
James.
yeah, he's basically saying, okay, but we're trying to make an actual game that's fun to play. That's what he's saying. And this is him basically expressing, oh, I didn't real... This is his epiphany of the thing that I wrote, while it might be interesting to read about, might not be necessarily fun to play.
Yeah.
That's a completely different thing. This does not back up her argument that the Darkspawn are meaningless bullshit, like, distractions that aren't engaging or that don't have any sort of story to tell.
Also, the reason why the Darkspawn are really important in Dragon Age Origin is because prior to you playing as the hero of Ferelden, whichever you bright race you pick or anything, how do I put this? Blights, right, take hundreds of years to even be fought and won because the Darkspawn repopulate like nobody's business. So it's hard to beat them. The fact that you and your warden, whoever you play in Origin, can do it in a year is what makes it impressive. Because you had Morgan with you. And also Alistair, who's actually really pivotal to the fucking story in Dragon Age Origin. So, like, if you pay attention to the world building, it explains shit to you that you didn't know.
Yeah, it's just like, this is completely her cherry picking a quote that, like, sounds like it kind of supports her already preconceived, like, idea of what Dragon Age should be. And then, like I said, just cherry picking this quote, like, out of context, when even within the quote itself, it shows that it doesn't actually say the point that she says it's making.
Damn, we're already a minute in.
Yep.
I'm so sorry.
Let's see. She's gonna finish reading this quote.
There was one change he wanted which didn't sit very well with me. He wanted an evil horde, some ubiquitous enemy like the standard fantasy orcs, which the player wouldn't feel bad about killing. Dragon Age fans will recognize this as what eventually became the Darkspawn, but back then they simply didn't exist. There was no such thing in the world I'd created. Seeing how the Darkspawn ultimately
again, like I said, this doesn't
Support.
that doesn't
This doesn't support.
Yeah, this doesn't support the claim that she's trying to make. Just because the Darkspawn were initially in the original concept doesn't mean that they weren't, like, a well-implemented, engaging, or interesting part of the story.
Also, I write, right? And I feel like that's the main thing she's not taking. I can write a million different books, but if I only ever take the first idea that pops into my head, the book might not be as good as it could be. Sometimes you have to add stuff to your book that you didn't even think of adding before. Writing is rewriting.
Well, and the funny thing is Lily's making the same mistake that this lead writer was making. Lily is critiquing it by basically saying, well, the Darkspawn aren't as interesting a concept as, like, the oppressive system that's created to oppress elves and Kunari and other races of people that you meet. And it's like, yeah, Lily, you're right. The Darkspawn with the was it archdemons or whatever the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, their story and everything with the Grey Wardens is not as complex as all the institutional oppression. You're right. That doesn't mean it's not a good story. Like, and also, this is a video game. It's not just a story you read about. You have to play the games, not just read about them, which is funny because Lily fucking hates reading.
Well,
so it's like,
another thing too, right? We hear about oppressed people all the time in real life. Like, turn on the news. 5 seconds in, it's gonna be about somebody being oppressed. You play games, generally, to disconnect from the real world. I don't want to hear about the oppressed elven people. Can I please just whack some fantasy creature and get cool armor, please?
It's not even that. Like, it's not even necessarily... Because those kinds of stories can teach us about the world, can teach you about how oppression manifests and how it influences people and things like that. Like, it's not to say that those aren't good or engaging stories, or that, like... Because some people don't necessarily want to disconnect. It's the fact that she's her entire argument is like, well, this idea is more interesting than this one, therefore this one's good and this one's bad. That's not how it works. Just because one idea might be more simplistic, which the way that the Darkspawn and the Blights and the Archdemons are all fleshed out, they're not just a carbon copy, they're just orcs. Like, they do actually flesh them out, especially when it comes to the Grey Wardens. They actually give them some amount of depth.
Also, Darkspawn
like,
come back in every single game, except Veilguard, because I haven't played it, so I don't know. Every single game you play,
they come back in Veilguard as well. They come back in Veilguard. So they're actually a big part in Veilguard.
Okay, so then this is a persistent problem in the world that they introduced you to in the first one. Like, this will come back later.
But my point is that just because one of them has more potential, or might be more initially interesting, doesn't mean that one is bad.
No.
Like simple stories can be good, but she's basically just going, this one's simple, therefore it's dumb and stupid and bad. Like, this is child logic. This is fucking idiotic. Anyway.
Played out, they did seem to contradict everything that Gator had designed when he was told to make the setting in the first place. And though he claims he was mostly fine with how the Darkspawn turned out, they do still reek of something awkwardly bolted onto the story.
What?
No, they don't.
Oh,
That's the whole point
God.
of you being commissioned and indoctrinated by the Grey Wardens in Origin. You are conscripted to go fight. Conscription is basically mandatory military service.
Well, no, it's not that. It's she's talking about the story structure, and it's like, first off, they're not tacked on. They're basically like the main focus, and then it's how the basic structure of the story is. Hey, this horrible, like, dragon-led zombie apocalypse, magic zombie apocalypse just happened, and here's how this horribly oppressive world, medieval magic world, reacts to that. Like, that's the basic structure. And she's actively contradicting the writer because she just gave the game away. Like, she just said that the lead writer actually liked how the story turned out, even though initially he didn't.
Yeah.
Like, that quote, I guarantee you, if we find that article, is probably him saying, yeah, initially I didn't like the Darkspawn because that wasn't what I initially came up with. But then, on recommendation of this other writer or director or whatever, I ended up putting them in. And I actually really liked how it came out when I did that.
Yeah, actually...
That's it.
Give me a sec. I'll find the article for you because I sent it to Rudy.
Yeah. Well, it almost doesn't even matter. Like, she's just giving the game away. Like I said, she is cherry-picking a quote from the lead writer, that she is trying to, like, use to support her argument that's not actually an accurate description of what he believes.
Yep. Alright, I sent you the article.
Okay, what do we got here? Medium article. Okay, go away. Where's the magic? Yada yada. Wasn't the world I created. I'll admit it. I balked. It ran smack against the very theme I tried to establish. I didn't want to figure out how to do it. I just didn't want to do it. I made arguments. I whined. I even made a couple of proposals which were so obviously stupid. I was inwardly hoping they illustrate why the entire idea was bad. You know, the sort of things which undoubtedly made James question both my professionalism and my competence, which he rightfully dismissed out of hand. So I tried. I sat down and ran, and rather than imagining all the ways in which adding orcs was the worst decision in all of human history, I instead tried to figure out if there was a version of orcs that maybe I wouldn't mind so much. Eventually, I thought of an idea where these weren't sentient monsters so much as a plague, a reoccurring event, yada yada yada. Okay, the lesson. This. Did I not just say this? This entire article is about how he was wrong at first, and then later realized that no, this was actually a really fucking good idea.
Yeah. The article will be linked at the description of the video, so you can read for yourself.
I was startled, but it seemed obvious in retrospect. Do my job well rather than do my job poorly. That's what you want from me. In my defense, I was pretty new to the whole lead writer gig. Is this a long-winded writerly version of when given lemons make lemonade? Perhaps to allow me a part. So it's, I mean, you can read the rest, but like it sounds like what he's saying is basically, okay, rather than like being like, well, that's not what I want. He learned the lesson of, okay, I'm gonna take what you gave me, and I'm gonna do the best job that I absolutely can with it. Because his job as a writer is to write a good story. It's not. Yeah. It's like, and he had restrictions. One of the restrictions was you need to implement some kind of orcs, and so he decided to spice that up by turning them into a living plague. Hence why I say they're not just a one-dimensional orc army. Anyway, let's keep going. It just fucking,
after the fact. Dragon Age 2, meanwhile, felt like something closer to what had originally been intended by Gator's own claims. Dragon Age 2 centers around the Hawk family, who were fleeing Lothering as it was being invaded by Darkspawn. In the original game, Lothering is a brief hub right after Ostagar until you complete one of the main story quests, at which point it's overrun by Darkspawn. The Hawk family were fleeing during what I can only assume was Callian fucking around in the Fade.
The only cure I know of is to become a Grey Warden.
And they all died at Ostagar.
Not all, but the last are now beyond your reach.
How do I get out of this maze? They ultimately end up fleeing to Kirkwall, a harbor city that has approximately 27 bandits for every ordinary citizen.
It's like I'm sitting on my hands. There are dangerous people in this city.
Yeah, Aveline, I know. I was mugged 12 times on the way here. The story is actually about Marion Hawk adjusting to life in the city, trying to protect her family and
well,
fail.
okay, well, she's already wrong. It's Hawk and one of Hawk's siblings.
Right, and their mom, but like, no duh.
Yeah.
So I actually want to point this out. Dragon Age 2 is technically a side story to what is happening in Dragon Age Origin. Everything from the point of when you get to Lothering, when you're a Grey Warden in Origin, and the Hawk family is the exact same timeline. Because the second you leave Lothering as the Warden is the same time the Hawk family is fleeing to get to Kirkwall, which is where their mother's family is originally from. So Dragon Age 2 is happening parallel. And the reason why all of these people are here and everybody's so mad and why there's so many bandits around, her words not mine, is because the world is in fucking chaos right now. Everything is on fire.
That'll do it. Yeah, but like let's keep going. Let's see what she's just doing. Like, she's not saying anything. She's just summarizing right now. So,
Yeah.
I mean, other than summarizing inaccurately.
This actually puts the perspective of the player down on the ground. After getting out of her origin, Callian largely deals with Arls, leaders, kings, and their armies, dealing with the world on a macro scale and traveling between entire kingdoms. Hawk is down on the micro scale with individual people and traversing streets instead of nations. This gets Hawk down further into the weeds of a lot of Thetis' bigotry. The plot is also not about the Darkspawn or the demons and doesn't feature them as enemies on their own for the most part. You spend
Well, they do feature, but sure, whatever.
more time dealing with actual people. The Mage and Templar conflicts is a big contributor to the story, and Hawk gets to engage with it from a
It's only kind of like, you know, the entire second half of the story.
Yeah, the first half is just literally you trying to find your companions and, you know, setting up most of the plot, and then second act.
Well,
by the way,
dealing with the Qunari.
well, the Qunari go from, in the first half of the story, to being aggressive squatters to a really big problem in the second act.
Yeah.
a place of personal stakes. Marion's father was an apostate mage, and so her sister, and potentially Marion herself, is an apostate as well. For the record, for this video I played a warrior Marion, which meant Bethany was the sibling who survived, so my analysis is based around Marion's desire to keep her sister safe. As for Carver, I never actually finished this game with Carver, so I can't comment. Marion rather notably starts with pre-existing opinions on the Templars. She hates them. She runs into a Templar while fleeing Ferelden, who wants to kill Bethany for being an apostate, and Marion is having none of that shit.
That woman is an apostate. The Order dictates.
I am Aveline Valenne. This is my husband, Sir Wesley.
Oh, wait, does she mean Marion? Is Marion her character's name?
Yeah, she never names her characters. It's the starter name that they give you that you can change.
Oh, okay. I mean, I changed that because...
Well, it's supposed to be you. I would also like to really point this out. Hawk was raised with a sister who was also a mage, if you play mage, right? If you play Mage Hawk. And a father who was an apostate, who taught them from a very early age, if you get caught by Templars, nobody can come save you, because you're going to be locked away. So it doesn't matter what kind of Hawk you play, the immediate distrust is there because their father drilled that into their heads that the Templars are not your friends. Not this family's friend, anyway.
Anyway.
We can hate each other when we're safe from the Horde.
So long as you know I stand with Bethany, Templar.
Keeping Bethany safe from the Templars has been Marion's primary duty for most of her life. I really like the dynamic between Marion and Bethany here. First of all, devotion continues to be my favorite character motivation for heroes and villains. Second of all, there's strikingly good parallels to Gorian's Warden
My
Imlin.
god, why
Bethany's
is it always
presence
incest? It's always incest! My god! Ugh! Also, I don't know if you've ever played Baldur's Gate 2, but Imogen, whatever the fuck that pink-haired bitch's name is, isn't that important to the fucking story. She is the starter companion. I just find it very, very on brand for Lily. It's like, I love when characters show devotion. But, like...
It just feels very on brand for her.
Well, okay. Aztec, I'm going to ask you a question. 100% honest answer.
Yeah.
Is there toxic devotion that you can, like, think of?
Yeah, cults.
I mean, you said it. I was thinking it. I'm so glad you said it, though. Yes, devotion can be a nice, neat little quirk in romance stories. Specifically romance stories. But... I mean,
so far, I'm just like, I don't give a shit right now. She's summarizing mixed with she's summarizing mixed with oh, I like this thing. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Oh no, don't worry. But at the 5-minute marker, it gets bad.
Yeah.
In the story means there's always a personal stake for Hawke as the fight between mages and Templars starts heating up.
I mean, it could be more personal if you actually played a mage, but whatever.
Also, even though mage is hard to win against the Qunari that you have to fight towards the end of the game.
I hated that fight. I did play Mage Hawk, and I hated that fight. It was such a slog.
Well, that's the point, though, right? It's like, it's trying to tell you something. It's a slog no matter what you pick. Because nobody in Kirkwall, including Hawke, has actually ever fought a Qunari. So it's telling you, with you trying to win, this is a fight and a half. So when you get to Inquisition and Dorian and Boole tell you, yeah, no, we've been fighting over the same island for hundreds of years. What do you mean you've been fighting for hundreds of years? I played Hawke. This was a horrible fight. How are you guys stalemating them? That's the point. The mages of Not to Vinter are trained different. They are taught to fight different. The Qunari have a harder time fighting them than they do fucking Kirkwall Hawke. Sorry, that's what it boils down to. I have a lot of feelings, sorry.
Nah, you're good. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I think the only issue I have so far is, this isn't a great review of the game, because this is basically just her not just summarizing the plot, but it's her summarizing her plot.
Can you summarize
which is
Dragon Age 2? Anders commits 9/11.
If you're doing a Let's Play, because Dragon Age is one of those games where it's where each playthrough is semi-unique because of the decisions you make.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the overarching plot is more or less the same, but if this was a Let's Play, I just noticed dislikes are disabled by owner.
Oh yeah, she takes the dislikes off, and also she curates her comments section heavily.
I'm sure, but no, this would work better as a story time thing, what Jaden Animations does for her Nuzlocke and shit. But this doesn't work as a game review, because outside of okay, yeah, I enjoyed this game, and here's what I enjoyed about it. If that sounds like something that's interesting to you, then you can go and check out the game. But that's not from a critic perspective, that's not very good, because you're missing so much of what's in the game, just even from a gameplay standpoint. How are the different classes balanced? How does that change your experience of playing the game? Because fighting as a warrior versus fighting as a really fast but flimsy rogue, or fighting as a flimsy ranged mage, have completely different feels for playing the game. And then also, how does it change different battles? How does it change your relationship to different units? Which units do you prefer using because of that? How does it change? And then also the different races. The different races, you end up having a bunch of different shit happen with the story. Well, I guess actually in this one you're always a human, but normally that's a bigger factor. But like, at the very least, your decision to be a mage or not to be a mage make a pretty big difference.
Yeah, I actually played mage and rogue. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm just gonna say, like, for her to not finish that part of the game with having Carver as the sibling that survives is just really shitty on her as a critic.
It really is. So I played mage and rogue, right? I did mage the first time, so I got Carver the first time, and then I played rogue the second time, and I got Bethany. From the perspective of just which siblings you get, it's a wildly different experience. Carver is classic middle child. He fights you on fucking everything.
Dick. I hated Carver at first. I came around to him, but man, I fucking hated his ass at first. He was so fucking annoying.
But when I was playing rogue, Bethany is classic little sister, and I don't mean that in a bad way, right? I mean it as you've always been the responsible one.
Well, no wonder Lily likes her.
Right. But it also ingratiates Isabella to you really hard is because she's also a rogue and a thief, right? Like, there's common ground. Her story still plays out the same, but you have an easier time of talking to her because, well, look at you.
Yeah, you meet Isabella, you sleep on, like, the second night that you know each other, and then you go about being the bestest of friends.
Pretty much. But yeah, it's like, if you don't play it with both siblings, you actually really don't get the experience, because when I was playing Mage Hawk, there is a scene, I don't know if you remember it, where you and Carver are arguing about something, and he brings up the fact that it's like, if Dad was still alive and you yell at him, you have the chance to yell at him. I picked the mean option of, Dad died so that way we could even get to Lotharen, and then the fucking plague happened, and then I'm the one that had to be the adult because Mom never is the adult. And I was like, wow, that's a loaded conversation that they just drop you in.
Yeah. But it's just, she's a shit critic. That's basically my point.
Yeah.
She's a shit critic.
Especially after returning for the Deep Roads to find that Bethany has been taken by the Templars. This is the worst gut punch because Hawk is slowly losing the people she is trying to protect.
I mean, oh yeah, it's Colin. Oh man, that boy goes through so much. But like, it's like, I mean, to be fair, that's a better outcome than what happens with Carver, which, you know, she would know, but she doesn't care about Carver because, ew, boy, and I don't... I was gonna say something mean. No.
I mean, yeah.
We're not gonna go there.
Don't say that.
We're not gonna go there. We're not gonna go there. Again, my point. Shit critic.
Also, for anybody who doesn't
Templars,
know,
sealing her opinion.
Cullen ends up here in Dragon Age 2, and then he comes back in Dragon Age Inquisition, and he gets kind of a little bit of a glow up, and you're like, Cullen,
oh yeah,
what the fuck happened to you?
He doesn't look so tired on account of the lyrium.
Also, they actually finally give him like hair, and he doesn't look like a fucking Barbie doll. A Ken doll. Sorry,
it's Kendall. It's Kendall actually.
He's Knuff. He's Knuff in Inquisition.
He was always Knuff, Hella.
Yeah, actually in Inquisition, because we haven't gotten there, but I'll just spoil it. In Inquisition, you can actually help him get over his lyrium addiction because he was low-key trying and it was just a struggle, so you can help him as Inquisitor. But you actually gotta give enough of a shit to pop in on him once in a blue moon.
Yup. Yeah, you have to actually, you know, engage with things that aren't just put in front of you. So,
oh, no.
I wonder if we'll get to learn about his lyrium addiction in the next game.
Probably not.
Gut punch because Hawk is slowly losing the people she is trying to protect to the Templars, sealing her opinion of them for exactly what they are.
I mean, at the same time, like, okay, she's already building up a narrative against the Templars, like, okay, like, I'm gonna let her keep going on that. I'm just gonna say it's like, this again goes to the point of, if you're playing with Carver, you lose Carver in the Deep Roads. Spoilers. He doesn't die, but he gets pretty goddamn close. And he ends up becoming a Grey Warden and has to join them, so he doesn't die. So you also lose Carver, but it has nothing to do with the Templars. So the perspective that you end up gaining on their role and how oppressive they are is definitely influenced by that. So But at the same time, you're playing Mage Hawk, and the Templars fucking hate you, and they want to lock you up.
And the
Constantly.
only reason they do not lock you up if you play Mage Hawk is because you serve a really good purpose of running around and doing all the boring shit that they honestly do not have the manpower to do. They have ostensibly labeled you as a really good gopher. At any time, Meredith, the Templar, leader, point blank tells you, if you step 1 foot out of line and I don't like it, I will literally throw you in jail.
Yeah, basically. So, but
we don't have
Lily,
time for that.
Lily is really invested in wanting to have her sister out.
Well, also, I don't know if you remember this, but the reason why Bethany gets caught by the Templars is because Bethany assumes while you're gone, she's in charge, and she makes a really bad decision a little too publicly that announces that she's a mage, and it backfires. Because your sister is our lackey, you're the person that doesn't get paid underneath her. She's not here. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, well, and at the same time, you also have, I just have to point out, she is, completely ignoring, all the companions up until this point. I'm sure she's gonna get into them, but,
She doesn't.
Wait, really? What the fuck?
Okay, so other than Meryl, our cute little blood mage, Isabel, the pirate queen, and Anders, who commits 9/11 for shits and giggles.
Yeah, you mean Anders, who you literally can't ignore if you're just if you're barely watching the plot.
Yeah.
Meryl, who's the cute subby blood magic elf, and then Isabel, who you can also fuck. Gee, I wonder if there's a trend here with the people that she's focusing on. As far as the women involved.
Well, she doesn't get Fenris, right? She doesn't like taking Varric. I watched her playthrough of this. If she can get away with it, she never picks Varric, which is a tragedy. I know Sebastian is a DLC character, but she doesn't get Sebastian. And I was like, how the fuck?
I didn't have DLC, so
how the fuck did you miss the boy? Either. She doesn't get fucking Fenris, which I'm like, how do you fucking miss him, bro?
Just a moron. Meryl, she doesn't talk about Carver at all. And it's just it's the pain. The pain.
Take a shot for every companion she doesn't have. We like our livers, thanks. Ugh, I don't... Here's the thing, right? There are certain companions in Dragon Age games, right? Everybody has this. There are certain companions that you are ingratiated to from the word go, right? You like them. You take them on every mission because they're your breastie, right? Everybody has this in Dragon Age games. Doesn't matter. They're coming with you hell or high water. Unless you can't take them with you because the game said you can't. That's fine. But if you're going out of your way to only have the all-girl crew and never pick anybody else up, I'm going to seriously side-eye you and be like, why? Just pick up the whole crew. You don't have to take the boys if you don't want to, but at least pick up the whole crew. Oh, heavy sigh. You're gonna hate this next part.
Sorry, yeah, oh, sorry, I forgot about this. That's right, I completely forgot about this. Okay, so there's important fucking context that she's completely leaving out. As far as the story. So, the Deep Roads expedition that you go with Varric on.
Yeah.
And his brother. I forgot, the only reason Carver doesn't die is if you decide to bring Anders along. Otherwise, he fucking dies. Same goes for Bethany. If you bring her on that expedition, and Anders isn't there, she fucking dies. So the only reason that
Beth.
Oh, which for both of them, if they survive, they have to join the Grey Wardens. There's no other option. But the only reason she's going down this particular storyline is because she didn't bring Bethany on that one mission.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason she's still around.
Now that you said about it, my brain was like, this is also the mission where you get to see Red Lyrium for the first time.
Oh yeah, that's just fucking terrifying.
This Red Lyrium becomes another staple of the games that comes back to bite you in the ass later. But no, like, the only reason why Anders, now that you've said it and my brain is remembering, yeah, the reason why Anders is the person that you need to bring is because Anders is a Grey Warden who's running away from all his Grey Warden duties. That's it. He ran away from the Circle, ran away from the Grey Wardens, and then after he commits 9/11, spoilers, he runs away from Hawk.
Yep.
He has a habit
Anders
of this.
Anders is perpetual, like, he is he is like the worst kind of fucking, like, I don't know how to put it, like, activist or whatever. He is a person... I know what Anders is. You know what Anders is?
Huh.
Anders is a fucking incel.
Yeah.
No, but, like, actually, because he's a depressed motherfucker who feels completely lost in life, and so he ends up going to these big things, and then when those don't work out immediately, he runs away and completely, like, abdicates himself of any responsibility. So he takes on so being a mage, I mean, to be fair, you're forced into that. So running away from that, reasonable, understandable. But the Grey Wardens, does he volunteer to join that?
Oh, actually, so you have to get the DLC to get Anders, but when you meet him, he has a pet cat named Justice. Symbolism.
Yeah.
And he actually gets caught by a bunch of Darkspawn, and you, the Warden, have to, you can choose to fight them or choose to fucking leave him. Either way, right, no matter what option you pick, he ends up having to become a Grey Warden, or he's gonna fucking die. So, I saved him, right, and I had to take him with me, because now he was one of my fucking companions, and he bitches so much, bro. I was like, I regret my choice of taking you. So when I saw him again in 8 Dragon Age 2, I was like, no, I thought I was free of you.
Oh, so okay, so maybe not an incel then. But he's the type of person that basically, like, looks at life, says, this is unfair, and then throws a hissy fit.
Oh yeah, because if you ask him, point blank, right? If you ask him when you're the Warden, dude, what the fuck are you doing out here all by yourself? He tells you, I ran away from the Circle. You could ask a follow-up question. Why did you run away from the Circle? And his response is, they wanted to try and make me go with the Templars to some stupid village and help them with whatever was happening out in the real world. To which I have no obligation to because I've never been out in the real world other than the few times I've attempted to run away. Spoiler alert, the village they were trying to get him to come defend was Lothering.
Oop.
It doesn't matter, right? All the help they sent doesn't do fuck.
Yeah, but, like, but... No, Anders is a fucking, like, self-centered prick, and, like, he basically, like, because, like, it's not to diminish what mages go through at all, or the fact that, like, the Grey Wardens, like, if you just, like, get infected at all with the Blight, then, like, and you survive, you're just forced to have to join them, or that they're used, like, as, like, a pseudo-punishment for criminals and shit. Not a pseudo-punishment, just as a punishment, which is, like, not good. Despite that, like, so not to say that there aren't issues with those systems, it's the fact that Anders basically, like, the way he goes about it is in the most self-centered, self-serving way possible. Like, he is the epitome of, like, making everyone else's issues about him.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't actually do things to help people, he does it to help himself. Which is why, when things don't work out for him, he fucking runs.
I would also like to point out, if you have Meryl with you in your group, and you also have Anders in your group, Anders is really fucking racist towards her. Like, a lot.
Yep. Anyway, let's keep going. We got tangented. But yeah,
It's important
anyway,
context.
Lily is leaving out entire giant swaths of the story and context and shit. Because it's almost like these are complex games that, like, ideally take multiple playthroughs to actually experience the entirety of. Anyway.
That sounds gay, don't do that.
Fascist cronies whose sole purpose of her existing is to break up families. Now, BioWare was coming into Dragon Age 2 with a problem.
what?
To
Sorry.
protect the Templars, sealing the worst gut punch because Hawk is slowly losing the people she is trying to protect to the Templars, sealing her opinion of them for exactly what they are. Fascist cronies whose sole purpose of her existing is to break up families. Now,
What?
First of all,
Okay.
the Templars are not fascist. That is a word that is overused by you. No more. You are not allowed to use that word anymore, Lily. Second
They're
of all,
authoritarian, not fascist.
your sister has the option to not be taken in by the Templars if you take her with you on the fucking Dark Roads mission. You chose to leave her behind. She fucks up and gets caught, which she was told from birth not to do, because the Templars were always a big stigma and a problem for the family. And they don't try to break up families. This is just the way of the world. Some people are born to be mages, and there's no way to account for that. Please hold while Aztec looks up crucial information.
Left at home. If Bethany is left behind, she is arrested and taken to the gallows just as Hawk returns from the Deep Roads. She remains in contact with her family and adjusts quickly to life in the Circle. She passes her harrowing, which what is that again? I know I've heard of that.
The harrowing is basically like their coming of age ceremony to be mages that are allowed to go out of the Circle.
Gotcha. Okay. Becomes a senior member in charge of teaching young apprentices, and later reveals that Ella has taken quite a shine to her. She is happy that she doesn't have to run anymore and supports the Circle. Wait, what the fuck? Wait. Oh no. Wait. Lily, you fucking moron.
Yeah, also it,
Oh my god.
well, if she also chooses the Grey Wardens, right, if you take her down to the Deep Roads, she also sings the praises of the Grey Wardens. Basically, your sister's a fucking idiot.
Well, no, I didn't want to get into this because I wanted to keep letting her go, but okay. The fucking Templars and, like, all their shit. Yes, the Templars are very authoritarian, and they are a bad institution. However, to act like there is no justification behind the creation of the Templars is fucking asinine. Okay? Like you're constantly hearing about mages who either do shit because they decide to get involved with blood magic, like Meryl, or you're hearing about or mages who don't know how to control their powers, and so they get possessed by fucking demons, or they fucking kill someone, or whatever. Because magic is fucking dangerous in this world. And so the Templars and the Circles are created to help manage mages so that bad shit doesn't happen. Is it the correct choice?
No.
Probably not, in my opinion, considering that Tevinter has their shit with mages figured out way fucking better. That is not to say that Tevinter is good.
No.
But their shit's figured out a lot better. At least when it comes to mages and how they're handled. So, yeah, the Templars are fucking bad. But she's already trying to plant this in your head of, like, Templars bad, mages good, which is hilarious because she was just bitching about, like, how she didn't like simplistic storytelling when she's trying to make this complex story where, like, hey, actually the Templars do have some real justification, but they all are also really fucking oppressive towards the mages.
Also, I feel like she's kind
Simple.
of missing out. It's like, Lily, if you actually pay attention to these games and, like, really listen, the Templars are bad, right? This is just a thing, right? Nobody's gonna disagree with you on this. The Templars in the system used to subjugate mages are bad. Comma, the Kunari are 1,000 times worse. If I was a mage and I got to pick, I'll take a Circle over the Kunari any day of the fucking week.
Oh yeah, like that's the thing. Like when it comes to Kunari and the Kunari and Tevinter, they kind of show the different extremes of what life for mages could be like. As far as that spectrum, the Circle and Templars kind of sit right dead smack in the middle.
Right. For those of
Maybe
you who don't,
maybe a little closer to the Kunari side of that spectrum, but
Right.
like they're not. They're definitely the more moderate.
more off center than immediate center.
Yeah, but they are definitely the more moderate, position, which is not to say it's good.
Right. So for people who are listening to this or watching this, here's a quick rundown. The Templars harrow their mages to be allowed to be let out of the circles to go help the Templars on missions as ordained by the Pope of this world, which is not the Pope, but for simplicity's sake we'll call it the Pope. On the other side, in Tevinter, they are taught from a young age how to navigate the Fade, how to sleep, like basically Fade walk, control their magic, summon demons and shit without being possessed. Other side of the extreme. The Kunari will literally sew the eyes and mouths of their mages shut and keep them chained at all times and literally beat the shit out of them to make them cast spells. They are below animals in the Kunari culture. So, here's the spectrum. The Templars are good, but again, I'd rather go to the Circle Mage section than the Kunari section every day of the week.
I'm just gonna say, if we're gonna be throwing around the word fascist, it's like the Kunari are right there, man.
Yeah.
Come on. Anyway, okay, let's keep going. I don't want to tangent too hard.
Now, BioWare was coming into Dragon Age 2 with a problem. David Gator really wanted to do this freedom versus security theme with the Templars and Mages, and wanted both sides to have equally valid arguments. He wanted this to be morally gray. And the problem BioWare always...
No?
Because it is to an extent morally gray.
Also, there is no freedom versus security problem. It is how much freedom should mages really be allowed to have with their magic? Not in general, just with their magic, if they don't know how to use it.
I mean, it is a little bit of a freedom security thing. Like basically, like how much freedom, like that in and of itself does feed a little bit into the idea. The Kunari kind of represent ultimate security with like their extremely oppressive system, with the Kun. And then on top of that, you have like, and then on the other side you have Anders, who's a fucking prick.
Anders, please don't commit 9/11. That's how we're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, but like she's not necessarily that far off there. But I know what she's about to say. She's going to say, well, no, this is obviously a completely black and white issue, and there's no moral ambiguity to be found. So let's hear it.
Ends up having is that no matter how hard they try, this conflict remains as one-sided and obvious as possible.
But it doesn't.
Fucking Apollo has blessed me today. Alright.
Stop holding the conch full of prophecy.
No, I will keep this fucking ball on me till I get through this goddamn video, so I don't have to keep watching it.
The Templars are fascists, putting mages in concentration camps from birth.
Also, from birth,
they're authoritarian, not fascist. Those are different fucking things.
Also, from birth is really throwing me off. A mage usually doesn't get their first, magic explosion power until they're, 6 or 7 years old. Not from birth. There are no mages born. Some mage families in Tevinter, 2 powerful mages can have a kid. That kid could be born with no magic whatsoever. Magic is random.
Yeah, but also concentration camps. Let's just be real fucking clear. They are concentration camps in the literal sense, but that's not what Lily means. She is saying concentration camps is to invoke, the Nazis. And that's also why she's saying fascist. They are concentration camps in the most literal sense of they are places where mages are held. And they are held against their will to a very large extent. So it's yeah. Calling them if you mean concentration camp in that sense, yeah, that's fair. But she has to know when she's saying that people are thinking death camps.
I think I would go more the route of ghettos in World War II than concentration camps.
Yeah, it's concentration camps is not necessarily an inaccurate term. Like, it's not an inaccurate interpretation. It's just, I don't trust that that's not what Lily doesn't mean death camps when she says that, because that's what most people mean when they say that term.
Yeah.
So it's just, but yeah, they're they're authoritarians, not fascists. Those are different things. And they're not, and like, they're only concentration camps in the very literal sense. They're not like death camps. So that's not, again, not to say that any of this is good, but like, God, be fucking accurate with your language. But she's trying to be inflammatory.
The idea that they
Because she's trying to back up her point that this is a completely one-sided issue. When it's like, no, it actually is more complicated.
Actually,
could
okay,
abuse
really
their
quick.
powers.
So in the Dragon Age comics, right, they actually you do get to meet a Templar who specifically joined them because his older sister got taken to a circle because she was a mage. He thought he could join and go to her circle. Turns out, no, that's not what happens. They know that he's related to her, and they put him on the other ass end of the fucking map on purpose because they don't want him to get near her because you might favorite her. So, not to say all Templars are like this, but some Templars might join because they've got family in there that they're trying to get to, and the system is actively working against them. You don't know if that's that's like a backstory that one of these guys has or not.
Well, and like I was saying, it's like you have documented cases within the Dragon Age world of mages who get possessed, or mages who can't control their powers. If you are looking at it from the perspective of someone who doesn't have magic and you're seeing all this shit, yeah, it does make sense that you might either want to join a force or be in support of a force that keeps that shit in check. That makes sense. It's like the same shit of like here's a fun fact. Did you know that a lot of people, like a lot of minorities who live in like poor communities actually are in favor of having more cops because there's a lot of crime in those communities? Does that actually fix the issue? No. But that doesn't mean that those people are like, they're wrong from a macro scale, like, yes, but are they wrong for thinking that, like using that kind of logic of, oh, there's crime in my community, well, let's get cops to handle the crime? No, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to think. Just because that's not the actual correct solution doesn't mean that there's not moral ambiguity there. Would you say that person is morally wrong for just wanting to live in a safe community?
No. Also, here's the example, right? You know your friend your whole life. You guys grow up together, and then when you're about 6 or 7, your friend claps their hands together to, like, kill a fly or a gnat or something, and from their hands, fire explodes. You do not have magic in this scenario. You would be a little scared, right? Because all of a sudden, there's just fire right there. Boom. When you have somebody that can do something that you cannot, and it's very aggressive, yeah. From the perspective of somebody who has no way of fighting that, do you see why you might be more in favor of these guys? Not because you think your friend is evil, but because you could have killed me.
Yeah. Like, it just, no, this is stupid. Because Lily just sees it as like, oh, these people are cops and these people are minorities, so obviously the minorities must be right. And so, and she's she's not at all trying to understand why people think the way they do. She just already has her beliefs and her decisions, and then takes that, transplants it onto this game, and then it's just like, well, this is already a done deal. Like, why is there any ambiguity? Like, the answer to this is obvious. When it's like, no, Lily, if you actually, understand other people's fucking perspectives and think outside just your own, then no, you could actually start to understand how there might actually be a bit of a moral dilemma. Anyway.
Yeah.
mages in concentration camps from birth on the idea that they could abuse their powers. Meanwhile, the Templars freely abuse their powers, destroy families, lobotomize the people under their control, and are even said to rape mages if they think they can get away with it. In the previous...
No, that's not true. Actually, that's not true.
I don't remember that ever being said anywhere, but even if we take her word for it, yeah, the Templars are fucking bad. That's besides the point. Like, and first off, I like that she portrays it as the mages might abuse their powers when you fucking know Meryl. Like, sure, Meryl is not actively going out trying to hurt people, but, like, she does start going into blood magic, which, by every account from the story of someone using blood magic, is just not good. It just isn't. It's like one of the few things in the story that actually is just kind of unambiguously a bad thing. I don't know if there might be some very minor cases where blood magic can be used for good, but it's pretty few and far between.
So actually, I can answer this question for you if you'd like.
It's not really that important.
Okay.
But it's like on top of that, you've already spoiled it for me, but we're going to talk about the fucking one mage the serial killer motherfucker who goes around abusing his powers to hurt people. You run into bandits who are mages. It's almost like, mages are people too, and if they have this super special weapon that they can use, they might just use that to hurt people, because some of them decide to abuse their power. Whoa, crazy idea. Fucking... to act like mages are completely innocent, are just this completely innocent minority group who there's never been a mage that has ever done anything bad, and the Templars have absolutely zero justification for existing is, again, asinine.
Previous video, I compared the Circle to the Majdanek concentration camp, and, well...
The Majdanek concentration camp is like one of the major concentration camps that killed a lot of Jews in World War II, along with Auschwitz.
So remember my point of
yeah.
They're not death camps?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, I have called it again.
Okay.
Lily was being dishonest when she called them concentration camps. What do you fucking do? Anyway. What the fuck does Anders have to say?
The Majdanek concentration camp, and, well...
Come with me tonight, please. Help me find the evidence of Sir Ulrich's tranquil solution.
What do you mean, tranquil solution?
That's what he calls it. His idea of a peaceful solution to the mage problem.
Dragon Age 2 attempt...
Did you let Anders finish the thing? Let's read what he actually had to say. To sunder the mind of every mage in the free marches. They're not killing them. As you said earlier, they're lobotomizing them. Is that good? No!
Actually, they're only lobotomizing their
camps.
magic. They're not literally making them into vegetable people. It's only severing their magic. So they kind of don't know how to not be a mage, so they're a little... lost. That's why they have that glazed look and why they talk like they do, but they're not literally
it's almost like it's a super traumatic experience for them, and so they're kind of just dissociated and fucking out of it now.
Yeah, actually, if you go to Inquisition, sorry guys, we're gonna go to Inquisition, and you go to that town where you have to pick up Dorian in the church, you can find in the tavern actually a tranquil mage, and you could pick him up and take him back with you. If you end up talking to him after you smack the silly shit out of Solus, you can ask him how he's doing and everything, and he'll just tell you. He goes, it's been a long time since I've been around so much magic, and I can kind of feel it, but I don't remember how to use it, and I kind of really miss it. He's monotone, right? And you can ask him a follow-up question of, that must have been really traumatic for you. And his response is, I still wake up crying sometimes because I can't get to where I want to go. Meaning he can't get back to the Fade, so he doesn't know how to be a person without magic. He's not lobotomized, he just doesn't know what to fucking do with himself.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, it's horrible. It's awful. Like, it's torture, it's traumatic, it's fucking, like, it's a terrible fucking thing. They are not death camps, and she's being actively dishonest. Like, now here's the thing. I could totally believe that the writers were trying to, what's the term?
Lampshade?
They were trying to, like, huh?
Lampshade?
No, they're trying to, make an allegory to the final solution, like the Nazi attempt to kill all the Jews. Like, I think that's actually a completely fair read.
Oh yeah, no, that
However, Lily, it's an allegory, not a direct one-to-one analogy.
No.
These are different things. And the fact that she doesn't recognize the difference between an allegory and an analogy is... Remember when I said she was a shit critic?
Yeah.
Sid. His idea of a peaceful solution to the mage problem.
Dragon Age 2 attempts at all times to make this morally grey by showing you mages who have turned to blood magic and become abominations. Most of the quests and storylines in this game circle back to either the Circle or blood magic, but at every possible opportunity they show it predominantly being Circle mages who turn to blood magic in their efforts to escape and fight back against the Templars. This rubbed me the wrong way back in 2010, but in the same way that Elven Ghettos directly draws comparison to the ghettoization of ethnic minorities in America and Nazi Germany, this aspect of the Mage-Templar conflict draws dangerously close to things like 9/11 being used as a pretext for the War on Terror, which...
Wait, but
There's a lot.
not all of them are using them to fight. Not all of them are using it to fight against the Templars. Some of them are doing it, like Meryl, for example, out of pure just exploration.
Right, and this is going to circle all the way back to
Ignorance.
Inquisition. Aztec will know what I'm talking about, but spoilers for Inquisition for the people watching. When you fight in Inquisition, you actually end up having to fight a fear demon, which is an annoying level. But if you take Dorian with you, right, he's from Tevinter. He tells you while you're walking around doing stuff, fighting things, that, oh, he wishes that it was a desire demon because he likes to fuck with them a lot, indicating that the mages in Tevinter are literally handheld through having to go into the Fade, so they're never tempted to be possessed by demons. So why are all the Kirkwall and Circle mages doing this? They're not taught this. You are sending them into the fire with no clue how to get fucking out without getting burned. So a lot of them end up doing blood magic and getting possessed because they don't know how to not get possessed or get hurt.
And it's like, look, it's not to say that there's not a point to be had of, oh, they don't want to do blood magic, but they feel like they have to escape oppression. That's a perfectly fine thing to bring up. But again, my overall structural point of like, hey, mages kind of have these kind of insane, extraordinary powers that can seriously hurt people if they're not careful, and if they're not, and if it's not handled with care. That in and of itself does make it understandable why the Templars exist.
It's
like,
not to say it's a good thing, it's just
like,
it's understandable how we got here.
Like to deny that there is any, like, she's trying to make the argument there's no moral gray zone. There is, even if it's not very much.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta get going because I'm fucking
killed millions of people at the hands of the US, or October 7th being used as the pretext for Israel's inhuman barbarism against the people of Gaza and every other nation that looks at them funny. Any of these cases would conflict into the ghettoization of ethnic minority 2010, but in their efforts to escape and fight back against the Templars. This rubbed me the wrong way back in 2010, but in the same way that Elven Ghettos directly draws comparison to the ghettoization of ethnic minorities in America and Nazi Germany, this aspect of the Mage-Templar conflict draws dangerously close to things like 9/11 being used as a pretext for the War on Terror, which killed millions of people at the hands of the US, or October 7th being used as the pretext for Israel's inhuman barbarism against the people of Gaza and every other nation that looks at them funny.
Yes, but here's the thing. With both those incidents, you have a situation of, okay, yeah, the reaction to those, completely overblown, not at all justified, very bad. However, that doesn't justify the use of force or the attacks thereof of, say, Hamas on Israel, or Al-Qaeda on the US. Those are still issues that still hurt people and cause death and destruction. Like, both can be bad. One can be more bad, but like, it's almost like this is not. It's almost like there actually is some moral ambiguity here, because it's like, well, what do you do about like a terrorist group that has shown that they are willing and able to attack and kill our people? Do you do nothing and just wait for it to happen again? Now, I'm not a fucking politician. I'm not a foreign policy expert. I can't tell you what the fuck is correct with either of those situations. I mean, the war in Iraq was bad. What's happening currently in Israel-Palestine is bad. But that's besides the point. And what's happening in Dragon Age with the Templars and mages and how the Templars are treating the mages is really fucking bad. That doesn't mean that the mages are completely innocent.
That's
anyway,
true.
Okay. Let's keep going. I'm trying. I want to get through this because she keeps fucking repeating herself.
And in these cases, the large powers in question were the ones who created the situation that led to the scapegoat in the first place.
Yeah.
It's hard not to look at desperate mages turning into abominations after being threatened by Templars and not ask, what the fuck did you think would happen? Just to put the shit cherry on the whole thing, when tasked to help rescue Anders' friend from the Circle, we find that he's been made tranquil, which is the Chantry's version of a lobotomy. His friend makes it clear exactly what the hell he's in during a brief period.
Please kill me before I forget again. I don't. Wow.
Are you?
And
Anders, I know you do know. I knew you would never give up. I would need to rewatch this
whole thing.
scene.
When tasked to help his friend makes it clear exactly what the hell he's in during a brief period of lucidity, where he asks Anders to kill him. That's how bad being made tranquil is. If a mage briefly regains their sanity, they will literally beg for death. About the closest thing to a justification that...
Okay, so
good.
I'm gonna go back to the Tranquil Mage that you meet in Inquisition. These periods of lucidity are just them very, very briefly being able to touch their magic again and then being yanked away from it. Because it's a cutoff from their magic. So, when they have these periods of lucidity, as she calls it, it's just them having it again and being like, dude, I can't live like a normal person. I've never been a normal person. I can't do this. You need to get rid of me.
That's fine. Hold on. Let's find this. What is this? Act 1? Yes, it is. Anders being possessed by Justice Vengeance. Okay, cool. He believed together bring justice. I love that literally in the wiki it says, however, Anders' anger warped justice into a force of vengeance. Anders must now struggle to maintain control. Amazing.
Wow.
It's almost like him being fucking possessed is meant to be an analogy for his entire fucking character and story beat. Okay. Carl. Ex-lover of Anders. Oh, I didn't realize that. Apparently this is Anders' lover. I didn't realize Anders was gay. Good for him.
Actually, Anders is bi. You can romance him as female Hawk.
Bisexual. Good for him. In the quest Tranquility. Okay. Is an Act 1 main quest in Dragon Age. Let's actually watch this. I'm curious. Here. Dragon Age 2. Tranquility. Oh, here it is.
Damn, it's right there.
Here we go.
Map or no?
Now you're just trying to get on my good side. I welcome your aid. I have already sent word for Carl to meet me in the Chantry tonight. Join us there. and we'll ensure that no matter who is with him, we all walk away free.
Okay. Going to meet
Anders,
Carl.
I know you too well. I knew you would never give up.
What's wrong? Why are you talking like...
I was too rebellious, like you. The Templars knew I had to be made an example of.
No!
How else will mages ever master themselves? You'll understand, Anders. As soon as the Templars teach you to control yourself. This is the apostate.
No!
You will never take another mage as you took him.
Okay, fight, yada yada. Oh, that was a cool move. Oh, hey, this person picked Mage Hawk as well. I'm just looking at these old graphics as like, man, Varric looks so fucked in the little icon there.
I mean, he is a dwarf, but yeah, my boy looks rough.
I mean, given how they're presented, I think saying they've been lobotomized is not like unreasonable. Like but like it's clearly more emblematic of like brainwashing, right?
Well, yeah, like
at least to me, it's more emblematic of like cliches for being brainwashed. But like lobotomized, sure. Like it's hyperbolic. It's not the most accurate way of putting it, but like, sure.
Well, I would imagine, right, if you just got severed from your magic like less than an hour ago, anything somebody's gonna tell you is probably gonna sound very reasonable because you're probably still processing that trauma, and you're just gonna repeat what you hear. Like you don't even really.
I mean,
understand
the way that it comes across is that they basically are just like they're like almost like zombie level dissociative. Like they're just super suggestive. They can't think for themselves. Yada yada. Like it's complete brainwashing to where they just kind of stop being their own person. So I would say it's more than it's definitely more than just they lost their magic, but they're completely normal. I mean, maybe later down the line, maybe they can still be like that.
Oh no, so
like,
that Tranquil Mage, if you get him in Inquisition and you talk to him more than once, he does slowly become more of a person because he's being more and more brought out of a shell, but also he makes it a point to hang out with all the fucking mages. Like, he never stops hanging out with them. And when they ask him, it's like, do you want to come watch us practice? He's always there with them. And I was like, he can't do it anymore, but he finds comfort.
Yeah, but my point being, like, it's like, yeah, sure, and, like, just going off of what's in Dragon Age 2, it's like, yeah, I don't think it's a terribly unreasonable conclusion that Lily's coming to. Certainly hyperbolic and not the one that I would come to, but it's like, it's not the craziest thing in the world.
No.
It's more of just a, like, again, going back to my point, like, it's like, is this awful? Yeah, this isn't good. This is really fucking bad, actually. But, like, if we're talking, like, just the, like, if we're talking just the general, like, is it justified for the Templars to exist? That's a much more gray question. Like, should the Templars exist and should the mages be allowed complete freedom? That's a much more complex question. Oh, yeah, guys. Okay, we get through the fight. Yeah. Okay, cool. Alright, what else happens?
Anders, what did you do? It's like you brought a piece of the Fate into this world.
Oh, yeah, so him letting letting the spirit out gives him, helps him feel connected to the Fate and thus he feels whole again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I had already forgotten what that feels like.
Man, he just fucking says it too. We're not even reaching.
No. It's their connection to the Fate makes them feel like a whole person again, and now his personality is coming back out again. Like, it does definitely suppress their personality. Like, that is definitely part of it.
What did you do? Not the fade part. The angry glowing bit.
It's like a gateway.
I love fucking Hawkman in Dragon Age 2. I'm still mad about how they changed Hawk's character because
in Inquisition, it's like cool.
Hawk is so sassy and like in Dragon Age 2. I love it. Anyway.
Way to the Fade inside you, glowing like a beacon.
I have some unique circumstances, yes. But Carl, what happened? How did they get you?
The Templars here are far more vigilant than in Ferelden. They found a letter I was writing you. You cannot imagine it, Anders. All the color, all the music in the world, gone. I would gladly give up my magic. But this... I'll never be whole again.
Okay, so yeah, he's basically saying he got caught, and then they cut off his connection to the Fade, and without that connection to the Fade, he feels like completely lost and dead inside.
And he's
all the color, all the
disassociating
music
hard
in the world,
because of it.
Gone. I would gladly give up my magic, but this... I'll never be whole again. Please, kill me before I forget again. I don't know how you brought it back, but it's fading.
Carl, no.
Maybe we can find a cure.
Can you cure a beheading? The dreams of tranquil mages are severed. There is nothing left of them to fix.
I would rather die a mage than live as a Templar puppet.
I would rather die than be tranquil. Help him.
I got here too late. I'm sorry, Carl. I'm so sorry.
Now! It's fading! Why do you look at me like that?
Goodbye. We should leave before more Templars come.
That wasn't normal magic you just did, was it?
Anyway, okay. And then we had the explanation of what happened. So, like, yeah, like, it's definitely more than just, oh, they're sad and traumatized because of, like, they lost their connection to the Fade. Sure, like, that's definitely, there's definitely more to it than that, but, like, it's just...
Regains their sanity and makes it clear exactly. We find that he's been made tranquil, which is on the whole threatened by Templars, and not ask, what the fuck did you think would happen?
Oh yeah, now I remember. Yeah, she's basically trying to say like, oh, well the mages are completely guiltless and all this shit, and it's like, no.
Made tranquil is. If a mage briefly regains Templars actually have, they will literally beg for death. About the closest thing to a justification that the Templars actually have is Quentin, a necromancer who's been committing a series of grisly murders to Frankenstein's monster his wife back together, even killing Marion and Bethany's mother in the process. See, you might say, mages are dangerous. But what does this say about the Templars? There's a mage serial killer running rampant through the streets, butchering women, and the Templars aren't on that?
So this is something I did tell you about. Lily.
Yes, this is the one you told me about. Literally, all I have to say about this is like, is honestly, there's a serial killer going around killing prostitutes and any women he can get his hands on, and the cops aren't doing anything to stop this. What does that say about the cops?
That's literally every cold case in America and Canada.
I don't know. They're not fucking like it's like. Funny enough, it actually is applicable here too. They're not fucking magic. They can't just snap their fingers and just stop every bad thing from happening.
I would also like to point this out. Even if the Templars were on this like ants on shit, the Kunari at this point in time have gone from aggressive squatters to real Heddick that is now actively fucking with them. They're stretched a little thin. Sorry, serial killer sounds a lot less important than angry cow person who's trying to snatch everybody who so much as looks at them.
Yeah, it's very fucking dumb. It's a very fucking dumb argument. It's literally just like, well, if the Templars are so great, why didn't they stop all the bad things from happening? And it's like, I don't know, Lily. Why didn't it's like why didn't Netanyahu just tell the rockets to go home? I don't know.
Well, I would also
they dismiss it completely
out too The only reason Hawk finds Quentin is because Hawk's mother goes on a date with this fucking fool, and Hawk's mother tells Hawk about this. Hawk wasn't looking for this man. Hawk knows nothing about him until literally it's dropped in her lap.
Well, you know, until she gets killed.
Yeah.
Rampant through the streets, butchering women, and the Templars aren't on that? They dismiss it completely. Marion investigates, solves, and brings justice to this murderer on her own. There's only one Templar even investigating it, and he ends up dead. Knight Commander Meredith just dismisses this concern. There's a mage serial killer on the loose. This is literally your one job. Meredith then turns around and weaponizes these murders against Marion if she speaks out against her. You can't look me in the eye and tell me the Templars did not willfully allow Quentin to run amok unchallenged because it was beneficial to their narrative. I'm making the real world parallels again!
But they don't know that it's a mage serial killer. They just know it's a serial killer. They have zero proof it's a mage. They just know it's some guy butchering women and leaving their bodies in the street.
I'm trying to find
Also, I don't want to be that person, but Lily likes to mod her games a lot. She does a lot of boob modifiers. Bethany, I love you. I'm sorry. Your titties have never looked that good. You were very flat for a lot of the game.
I don't think she actually modded it this time, though.
Oh.
Nope, I'm looking at her character model on the wiki. Nope, she got tits.
Oh, well, thank God. She modded Dragon Age Origins.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just... It's like without knowing the specific details of the side of that plot, it's like I can't say that she's wrong 100%. But it's like, it's besides my point because she's not engaging with the actual like overarching like systemic issues. She's just talking about it from like her, like basically just saying like, well, this is my opinion and this is why, and then that's like, and it's like, and then saying because, and then basically being like, well, I'm correct, so there's no moral gray area. No one else has any justifiable reason to think otherwise.
Particular, an apostate mage whose mother has been hiding him from the Circle. You get the chance to help him by either taking him to the Circle or taking him to the Dalish. Either way, later in the game he ends up possessed by a demon. The Templars would want to kill him immediately, but you can go in and pull him out of the demon's grasp. It isn't actually difficult to banish a demon possessing someone. You literally do it in the previous game on a whim. He's later taken to the Tevinters, who can not only reverse demonic possession, they can actually train him in a way that's useful. Now, the Tevinter Imperium is fucking evil, but so is every other major power in this game. Much of the storytelling and—
Wait! Whoa! It's almost like the point I was making at the very beginning of this bullshit was like actually on point or something. Like, about how like, wait, you mean that there actually is a need to train mages so that bad shit doesn't fucking happen, and that Tevinter actually has a pretty good grasp on that shit? And like, also, to just as a side point, to just brush off Tevinter, it's like, well, the Tevinter Imperium is just fucking evil, but so is everyone else. Lily, I know you don't see it because you fucking skipped over Fenris. They enslave elves.
Yeah.
Like, all of them. If you find an elf in Tevinter, if they find an elf in Tevinter, they will enslave them. That's why Fenris has all the white lines all over his body.
Yeah, the guy...
Because they tortured him.
His master literally put the tattoo marks on him and then infused them with lyrium, so Fenris would forever and always be a lyrium lamp for him to draw on if he was getting low on power. Lyrium helps power mage and Templars, which is why the Templars and the Circles try really, really hard to never let the mages get any of it, because whatever power level you're at is where you need to stay.
Yeah,
Joke's
but
on
like,
them.
anyway, that's besides the point. Like, it's just like the point I was making at the very beginning of this. Like, just she's not at all engaging with like from an actual systemic point of view. She's just being like, basically just being like, well, I'm correct, and anyone who thinks otherwise is fucking stupid. And it's like, okay, whatever.
Simply the reality of how these systems actually really work against Gator's idea of a morally gray conflict. Oftentimes, the best Dragon Age 2 can really offer is just mages going crazy, seemingly at random. In a lot of cases, Hawk...
Yeah, because they can. That can just happen.
Yeah.
If they're not careful, yeah, they can literally just be dreaming and get possessed by a fucking demon. That can just happen.
That's literally...
That's why it's so important to monitor them and make sure they can manage their powers. Ah.
Yeah, it's almost like if you pay attention, the game tells you this stuff.
At this point, she's just making my point.
Because given
How
a
is there
quest of...
still fucking, like, over 10 minutes of this shit left? There's, like, what, 13 minutes left? What the
Find
fuck?
and help a missing mage, only for that mage to go absolutely kill crazy the moment we...
Okay, I'm fucking putting her on fucking, like, 1.5 speed. I can't.
find them. A notable example of this is Evelina. She was a woman who fled Ferelden with 2 young boys she rescued and adopted. She took care of them and cared for them, but then she was arrested by the Templars and taken to the Circle. When she escapes, she finds her brothers again, but this time she's gone completely insane, turns into a demon, and attacks.
Wait,
this is meant to
hold
be
on,
a,
stop.
look how
Are they
dangerous this
brothers
mage
or
is.
two
Attack.
kids that she just happened to find. One is a familial relation, the other is just, I picked these up, I guess.
Okay, let's try this.
Can really offer is just mages going crazy seemingly at random. In a lot of cases, Hawk is given a quest to find and help a missing mage, only for that mage to go absolutely kill crazy the moment we find them. A notable example of this is Evelina. She was a woman who fled Ferelden with 2 young boys she rescued and adopted. She took care of them and cared for them, but then she was arrested by the Templars and taken to the Circle. When she escapes, she finds her brothers again, but this time she's gone completely insane, turns into a demon, and attacks. This is meant to be a, look how dangerous this mage is, attacking her loved ones. But given that she only changed after going to the Circle, I can't look at her actions and not see the cause. This is what the Templars do to people.
It's not the Templars, though. This is just being a mage. You run the risk, if you're not trained, of having the Fade, which you have a beeline connection to, possessing you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and why does this not happen to Bethany? Why is Bethany, if she gets taken to the Circle, singing the praises of the Circle? I fucking... Motherfucker. Alright.
They rip apart families, imprison their loved ones, and torment them into insanity.
Also, she's just gonna leave that entire part out, isn't she?
That Bethany gets taken to the Circle and sings their praises?
Yeah, yeah.
She never reads any of the letters that come from you, so if there's something that you have to read, she skips it.
So that's a yes.
Demons are their only respite. And that thought sticks with me even as more and more mages turn to blood magic. At almost every avenue, it is to escape the violence of the Temple.
Also, notice how this is just Lily assuming these things.
Mm-hmm.
She's not actually backing it up with direct evidence from the game.
No.
Anyway.
Templars. BioWare really wants the Mage-Templar War to be a morally gray war where both sides have a point, and it's not.
Jesus
it's just not. Not only is it
Christ,
actively
stop
shown that
repeating
blood
yourself.
magic can be used responsibly in almost every game, what with it being a specialization.
Wait, what?
It's just not. Not only is it actively shown that blood magic can be used responsibly in almost every game, what with it being a specialization, and often the best one, but the crimes of the
it's not a specialization.
That
Meryl
doesn't
is
mean
the
that-
only
wait.
mage in any Dragon Age game, except Veilguard, because I haven't played it, that has blood magic that she can call in, because she's actively using it, because that's like a whole fucking arc with her. No other mage has this specialization.
You certainly don't have it in Dragon Age 2. I think she means the player character.
Again, you never see this anywhere else in the fucking Dragon Age universe, and the only reason you learn it is from fucking Meryl.
Dragon Age 2, I know you can't in Dragon Age 2. I'm almost certain you can't use... Like, am I wrong? Gameplay... Like, hold on. Talent trees. Hold on, let's see this. Like, can you... Like, I'm almost certain, like, you can't use blood magic as the player character in Dragon Age 2.
I don't think so, and even if you did, I don't think that... No, actually, I think Meryl is the only one.
And even then, it's like, just because the player character your character doesn't get possessed doesn't mean blood magic isn't super fucking dangerous and basically, like, almost always a bad idea. Like, because every other example you're shown, it's shown going wrong. Even Meryl's fucking companion quest.
Yeah, she almost gets possessed.
Yes. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Meryl, and I am open to the idea that blood magic is not 100% bad all the time, but it is one of those things that is almost always just a bad fucking idea.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Mages don't come anywhere close to the crimes of the Templars. The Templars have state power to act with impunity. They have an emergency kill every mage in the Circle, including the Children Order. Kirkwall's Circle keeps mages locked up and isolated in their cells. Anders eventually blowing up the Chantry in Act 3 isn't...
No, Anders committing 9/11 is actually a bad thing.
It's like, yeah, I mean, that's basically a summary of her point. Basically, just like, no, I just think that I don't think the mages do anything that's as bad as the Templars. Which, like, sure, fine, I don't fucking care. Like, it's just like, but she's also trying to act like the mages are completely morally, like, not at all morally culpable for anything, which is like, just no.
Isn't an example of mage violence. It is a completely earned act of retribution by an oppressed group against their oppressor. At the end of Act 2 of the story, remember...
No! It kills tons of fucking people, including mages! No! You were literally... The whole thing with that she's leaving out is that the fucking person at that chantry was basically completely unaware, which is a bad thing, like complete negligence on their part about how bad the Templars were being.
Correct.
And so she's about to step in to fix things and basically tell the Templars to chill the fuck out and stop oppressing the mages so much, and then Anders fucking kills her.
Correct. So this is actually a thing
Literally
that happens...
about to make a treaty between the mages and the Templars for better treatment, and Anders fucking destroys that.
Yeah. So actually,
like,
this is
an actual option for improvement, and Anders fucking sinks it because he decided to go all fucking yippee-ki-yay on this motherfucker.
Right. So
like,
that's actually a storyline in one of the Dragon Age comic books of where a new girl who joins the Chantry begins to notice that the Templars are very, very aggressive in, like, this little town that they're in for the mage circle, to the point where she's like, the mages usually have bruises on them. Don't you guys think that's weird? And none of the other people notice it because they're just not noticing it, and once they start to, the townspeople actually write to the Chantry about maybe the Templars are being a little aggressive, so they send one of the mothers to this little town, and the Templar that's the head of this point blank looks at her and goes, "You didn't ask us to babysit them. You told us to keep them on a short leash." And she goes, "I didn't tell you to beat them like dogs. I told you to keep them in line. You're hitting them for no reason." And the guy's like, "I'll kill them for no reason too if I so feel like it." Basically, it's telling you the church installed them to be babysitters, and they've taken it way, way, way out in the field where it shouldn't be.
Yeah. And it's not to say that the Chantry is not culpable. They absolutely fucking
they are.
It's just like, oh my god. To say that what Anders did is completely justified is an insane take.
Well, how many...
Because not only is it not justified, it's like, it actively makes things worse.
Right.
For mages.
I also have a question, right? Because they never specifically say it. But the Chantry is ostensibly a church that he blew up. How many people were in that church that were 100% innocent from all of this shit? Right? 100% innocent. How many of them were mages?
It's like, look, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I'm just saying, like, very often big terroristic attacks like this that are done often by an oppressed group on an oppressor often make things worse for the oppressed group, because then the oppressor cracks down even harder. Sometimes, if you have real bad actors in that oppressed group, they're actively trying to invoke that sort of response for sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not necessarily what's happening here. That's more of a real world thing. But you can totally see it here, where the Templars, upon this happening, immediately jump to, well, now it's time to kill all the mages. Congrats! Congrats, Anders. You have now made your situation 1,000 times fucking worse. Because, yeah, while being tranquil was awful and you'd rather die, I could totally relate to that. I mean, like, it's like, I think that's totally fair. At the very least, there were options and ways to improve the situation. You have now just completely sunk all that. You actually worked against one of your best options to help the situation. But, you know, fuck it, whatever.
Remembers that elf racism is a thing, because Aveline asks you to help her negotiate the release of some elves who are wanted for killing a guard. When you find them under the protection of the Kunari, it turns out a guard had raped their sister, and when they reported the guard, they closed ranks and refused to investigate, so they murdered the guard in question. Aveline tries to argue that this doesn't excuse murder, but, I mean, she's a cop. One who is shown at all times to be
Does it? Are you saying it excuses murder?
It doesn't excuse murder. Like, that's not...
Like, she didn't explain it, like, who did you murder and why?
The Kunari, it turns out a guard had raped their sister.
The city guard forced himself on our sister, we reported him, or tried to.
And when they reported the guard, they closed ranks and refused to investigate, so they murdered the guard in question. Aveline...
Yeah, so nothing happened to the guard after this wasn't a self-defense thing. Like, it's like, hey, he forced himself onto my sister, and then nothing was done about it, which is fucked. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And but then, in vengeance and retribution, I killed him after the fact. It's like, that is still not justified. That's not a good thing.
No.
It's like, just like, yes, what happened to your sister is awful, and that guard should have been brought to justice. Like, I'm not disagreeing with that, but it doesn't mean that he should have been murdered. Certainly not. It's like, if you're gonna execute him, it's like, certainly not it's like, I don't think he should be executed because it's like, because I don't agree with fucking death penalty, but certainly vigilante murder is not the call either. And then basically just brushing it off with, well, Aveline's a cop, so as if that like completely invalidates her point.
Tries to argue that this doesn't excuse murder, but I mean, she's a cop. One who is shown at all times to be extremely biased in favor of the guard. But the point of all of this is that after a lot of back and forth about how their actions are wrong, the Arashok sums up pretty much all of these interweaving conflicts better than I ever could.
Their actions are mere symptoms. Your society is the disease.
The Kyun is an awful...
Yeah, and do you know what is... let's see if she says it.
...organization, but the Arashok is right. You cannot judge the actions of the oppressed reacting to their oppression as equal to the actions of the oppressor. And I feel like
That is not the same as saying that there's... That is not the same as saying there's no morally gray. Like, just because that the actions of the oppressed are not equivalent to the actions of the oppressor does not mean that there's not moral ambiguity and that these situations aren't complicated. I don't want to get too much more into it because she's just fucking repeating herself.
Everyone knows this, even if they aren't consciously aware of it. The few times you see mages acting with deliberate and intentional malice, the Templars are nowhere to be seen, actively allowing these things to happen and ruining people's lives.
You don't know that they're actively allowing it. Blood magic, where do you see blood magic? My people cannot sneeze without you accusing them of corruption.
So it will make them angry at mages. There's a large group of people who are sympathetic to mages in Kirkwall, and Knight Commander Meredith would very much like those people to pivot. Bioware ultimately gets so desperate that if you side with the mages at the end of the game, you have to kill both the Templars and most of the mages because they keep turning into abominations, effectively trying to use tedium to get people on the Templar side. All of this is the case because Dragon Age players overwhelmingly...
No, they're not trying to get you on the Templar side. It's just... That's what can happen.
...side with mages. Very few players are pro-Templar, and they tend to be the kind of players who play humans and got angry they couldn't call people Knife Ear and Veilguard.
Boy, that sure is phonetically similar to something else.
For the record, I have no idea what the fuck she's talking about, because Knife Ear is specifically indicating that elves have very sharp, pointy ears.
She's referring to insults and slurs hurled against Jews.
Fucking Christ, woman, if I had a shot for every time you mentioned this, I'd be drunk as fuck.
Turning into abominations, effectively trying to use tedium to get people on the Templar side. All of this is the case because Dragon Age players overwhelmingly side with mages. Very few players are pro-Templar, and they tend to be the kind of players who play humans and got angry.
Because, okay, whatever.
They couldn't call people Knife Ear and Veil.
I mean, I don't know who she's talking about. Sure, if that person exists, fuck them. I don't care. Like, that doesn't mean that she's correct.
No.
And not everyone who disagrees with you, Lily, is a raging, like, shitting themselves conservative.
Veilguard, and honestly thought that the human noble had a...
My friend started as a human. She seriously didn't understand why playing as an elf mage hated the church. I noticed that in many places you clearly lack context. Changes if you're in a position of privilege. I mean, I don't disagree, but a privileged person's perspective on oppression is usually incorrect.
But that's not what Dragon Age Origin is about.
Usually. Keywords usually. No, we're talking about Dragon Age 2, but I guess this is on Origins, sure. But your video is great. I'm waiting for Dragon Age 2. Yeah, it's like keyword though. Usually, that is not a always incorrect. Ay.
How the fuck?
A valuable perspective in the last video. Some others even heard that the conflict was supposed to be morally
We're only halfway through this video. What the fuck?
gray and just accepted it unquestioningly. And BioWare, out of a desire to have that morally gray conflict, keeps trying to tilt the scales and ultimately failing. This makes me think of a very similar issue in the Mass Effect series that is ultimately handled better, namely the genophage. The genophage is a genocidal sterility plague inflicted on the Krogan.
Oh my god, yeah, I do not fucking care. I know that story, but I just do not fucking care.
Side needs to have state power, and it's in exercising that state you can't. Games possible. In order for this situation to exist, one side needs to have state power. The cure is one of the most triumphant moments in the history of video games. There's always going to be a problem in making genocide and mass incarceration of an entire people morally gray. Namely, you can't. It's not possible. In order for this situation to exist, one side needs to have state power, and
there's always an issue in trying to make genocide morally gray, and the issue is that you can't. Okay.
Mages aren't being genocided, though.
They're not. But there's also the fact that it's like look. I'm just gonna come out and say no, she's wrong, because it's like in the sense of just because obviously the genocide or mass atrocity, whatever the fuck, is horrible and awful and bad, does not mean that all the actions of the oppressor, or sorry, the oppressed, are completely morally justified and without critique. This is insane. This is the kind of shit, you can literally use this logic to say that I don't know, an Iraqi person can just murder a veteran in America in the middle of the street today, completely unprompted, because they were involved in the oppression of my people and the killing of thousands of my people. That's not justified. I'm sorry, it's not. It just isn't. And look, it's yeah, genocide, slavery, all these other examples that are being used are awful and terrible and bad. And, but it's just, sorry, Lily, the world don't fit in black and white boxes. There is actual place to critique oppressed groups on how they combat their oppression. That is, a thing that you can do. Not all their actions are instantly justified.
It's in exercising that state power that creates the violence of the minority being oppressed. The one with the power of the state will always be the one in the wrong, because mass incarceration and genocide is always wrong, no matter how many terrorists you point to.
Sure.
And demand the condemnation of. The mages are vilified for what they might do if they abuse their powers. The Templars,
they do abuse their powers. Some of them do. That's just a fact.
Are actively abusing their powers and committing atrocities against the mages, including imprisonment, physical abuse, and rape. You can't side with the Templars.
I think she's trying to say rape. The guard was the one that raped, not the Templar.
Yeah, there is a difference, and it's really important to know that there is a difference.
Yeah. Because Aveline is one of the guards, not a Templar.
Her husband is a Templar, guards. But she is a guard. Big difference.
She's a city guard, yeah. Anyway.
Without turning a blind eye to their crimes.
What do you mean, tranquil solution?
That's what he calls it. His idea of a peaceful
literally repeating
problem.
Yes,
so the Mage Templar conflict being morally grey was just dead on arrival, simply by making the Templars the enforcement agents of a church that has state power among multiple kingdoms. If the Templars had simply been a radical group that broke off from the Chantry to hunt mages, it would have been slightly better, but it still falters because in 99% of cases, mages are defending themselves from Templar violence. So I give Dragon Age credit for talking about the socio-political issues in Thedas for an entire game. That was admittedly quite bold and unique, but BioWare's overwhelming desire for things to be ethically grey is what ultimately mucks the entire thing up. This whole attempt at moral greyness is part of a fallacy where people think moral grayness is more realistic because in the real world there is no black and white. There's always shades of gray, and I just don't believe that's true. As teenagers, we're often taught that there are complicated things in
We've reached the part
I mean,
of the
at
game
this
where
point,
Aztec is just laughing.
I mean, we've just reached the part in the video where it's like, okay, now Lily's just getting into her own personal philosophy, and I mean, I'm gonna let her finish this because I think it's gonna be funny.
In the world that can't be solved in a day. There's always shades of gray, and I just don't believe that's true. As teenagers, we're often taught that there are complicated things in the world that can't be solved in a day. We're given the both sides of pretty much any conflict you can imagine. But as adults, you realize you were taught that for a reason, and it wasn't because it was true. Because if you...
Insane. I mean, Lily, if you're gonna say that, like, you know, the moral perspective of a that you have the moral perspective of a teenager, I mean, you have put it better than I have. So, like, I'm not gonna get into every single one of these. It's like
Okay,
like, that's not
first
the
of all,
point, but it's
everything
just
that is
like,
on here is gonna cause an argument with somebody, right on the internet. It's gonna cause an argument, number one. Number two, not everybody is taught the same thing about these events as westernized people are. And I do mean Canadians as well as us, because let's not forget, Lily is from fucking Canada, not America.
I think the thing that's just so fucking obvious is basically what Lily is doing, is basically going, there are correct answers, and I have all of them, and anyone that thinks differently than me is just wrong. Is just plain wrong.
Sure, okay.
And there's no ambiguity about that fact. Everyone is just wrong. Everyone that thinks differently than me is just wrong. And sorry, Lily, you're a fucking moron.
Look,
it's like,
if you say that you like pancakes, that doesn't mean you dislike waffles. That just means you have a preference for pancakes. And then there are...
No, it's not even that. It's not.
I was gonna make
it's
a
not
joke.
even that. It's no, because that analogy is not even like what's happening. It's like it's like it'd be like oh god, I'm trying to think of a good example.
So my joke was going to be, but in Lily's world, if you don't like parfaits, you're a fucking evil transphobic degenerate. How dare you disagree with her? It's like, girl, chill out.
Because that's not even like analogous to what she's doing here. It's basically like I don't know, like it's like, I don't know, hey, a black guy murdered a cop, like completely out of retribution because the cop did something fucked up. And Lily has taken a position of, well, the cop, because of X, Y, and Z, state power, yada yada, X, Y, and Z reasons, the cop is always in the wrong because they are the oppressor, and the black person is part of the oppressed group. And
what if the cop
but then
was
she's
also
going,
black?
but then, well, no, not even that. No, make them white. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. The part where this goes really wrong is Lily is then saying, and everyone who disagrees with my position that the cop is the one in the wrong is a moron, because this is a completely black and white obvious issue that everyone should just understand I am correct on. That's the part that's like the jumping the shark moment. Like, that's the part where she goes from a here's my opinion to now Lily is being a fucking moron. Like, whether you disagree or agree with her opinion or not. Because frankly, for me, I also sided with the mages. I think that the way the mages were being treated was completely unjustified, and yeah, the circles are completely unjustified. The Templars are unjustified, personally, for me. That doesn't mean I don't understand the positions of people who might think that the Templars at least have some level of justification, because within the world, there is some level of justification for their existence. Is it enough justification? No, I don't think so. As shown by what's happening over in Tevinter. Like, that you can have mages be free and control their powers without having to subjugate them. Like, but like, Lily is then like, me and Lily are effectively on the same position, and then me over here, I'm saying it's like, yeah, I understand why you think that, even though I think you're wrong. And Lily's going, Actually, the fact that you disagree with me means you're a fucking subhuman moron who just doesn't understand that there are objectively correct answers, and I have all of them.
Yeah, I don't know how she gets to the point of I am right all the time, and then she's wrong about everything.
Yeah.
If you were told otherwise, you might feel compelled.
Like this entire thing has been me playing devil's advocate against a position that I actually agree with. Like,
I mean, you've been doing a really good job.
Because Lily's arguing. Yeah, well, because Lily's arguing it from a completely stupid fucking position.
To do something about it. And the illusion of nuance in an unnuanced situation is surprisingly paralyzing for a lot of people. Sure, not everything is black and white, but some things are. And it doesn't matter how many terrorists you point to defend your actions, because your actions are the reason they exist. Some people would argue I should treat the conflict as morally gray, given that it's the clear and obvious intention from the...
No, that's not... You know, terrorists can attack people that, like, had nothing to do with the reason the terrorists actually exist. Like, that's a thing that can happen. I just... just whatever. Or, actually, better yet, you can have, like, splinter and insurgency and terroristic groups that spring up in states and nations and other things that are actually, not justified. And the things that they want are bad, actually. And them rising up against what they perceive as the oppressors is actually the bad thing. That does happen, actually. Especially when you have situations where those terrorist groups are, like, funded by other rival states or things like that. That is not to make a statement on any current conflict or any current thing that's happening in the real world right now, just that those are things that can happen.
I mean, that's literally just history at that point.
Yeah, it's... What the fuck was she saying? I need to remind myself because ADHD is taking its toll.
Oh, no.
Because your actions are the reason they exist. Some people would argue I should treat the conflict as morally gray, given that it's the clear and obvious intention from the...
Yeah, I don't remember, but fucking, it's... Lily being stupid. Let's keep going.
Developer. But intention or not, the execution doesn't work. And it doesn't work specifically because it's written by people who fundamentally do not understand how oppression and systemic bigotry works. This isn't a case of individual people being bigoted against mages and individual mages being bigoted right back. These are massive organizations with power against individual people without power.
I find it funny that she's trying to like pose herself as coming at this from a systemic view when she's basically just like when she's actually not like she's basically just what she's doing is she's actually she's not actually coming at this from a systemic point of view where she's trying to understand how these different systems of oppression like cause these different things to happen, because if she did, she would also understand that there were systems and forces within the world that caused the Templars to also exist as well. Like that doesn't just spawn out of nowhere. What she's actually doing is essentializing these two groups as, well, this is the oppressor, aka the bad group, and this is the oppressed, aka the good group, and she has essentialized them into good and bad, oppressor and oppressed, and then basically is just going from there and this whole video is just a hodgepodge of her repeating herself for 20 minutes.
And not for nothing, mages can't decide not to be mages. Templars can decide not to be Templars. I've seen these kind of things in stories that have to be written in sequence, where the audience reacts to the story in a way the writer clearly didn't intend, but supported through the simple reality of how events have played out in front of them. And then there's a hasty backpedal to try and layer enough things
Is she gonna start bitching about other stories?
onto the story to shift them back to the conclusion the author wanted them to draw. This overcorrection is often wildly misplaced, and often sabotages the things about the art in question that were actually interesting. Oftentimes it's a warning to the creator that what they're trying to do is just a bad idea, and David Gator very clearly didn't like that most players were pro-mage, and he once accused them of taking the mage side by default entirely on the basis of freedom good. But everything about the way Gator writes and sets up the world naturally supports that conclusion, and he tried, in every subsequent game, to force people to have a middle ground position. But in my experience, people can tell when you're doing that.
What? Literally how?
I don't know, man. I
Inquisition,
feel like we've
Inquisition,
gone...
you're not forced to take... Inquisition, you're not forced to take a middle ground place. The Templar Mage War is just a thing that's happening, and then in the middle of... Like, you are... And then you're forced to take a side, whether you ally with either the mages or the Templars. You're not forced to take a middle ground there. What?
Yeah, like, hey, woman,
what?
We've gone, like, really hard to the weeds, and I don't know what the fuck she's even talking about anymore. It's like, what are you bitching about,
I don't
bro?
know either, because the only other game she could be talking about in this case is, like, with Templars versus Mages is Inquisition, because Veilguard, this is just not at all a factor.
Well...
like, even the little bit that I've played so far, because I'm not even that, like super deep in the game. I'm maybe, I don't know, a third into the game.
So
it's not at all.
If she is talking about Inquisition, you're not having to choose between the Templars and the Mages in the sense of you're making a morally right stance or anything. It's literally, which would you like to fight later on in the game? The Venatori from Tevinter or steroid jacked up red Templars? Those are your two future enemies. You get to pick. We're not gonna make you pick.
It is a little bit of an extension of the conflict itself and, like, the moral dilemma there, but, like, the point being, you're not forced into a middle ground position. She's just wrong. Like, she's just blatantly wrong about the story.
Yeah, I don't...
And they will often resist you on principle. It is immediately obvious, and nobody likes it because they liked the story they had before the author started fucking with it. The perfect version of Dragon Age is a story where the Chantry, the Human Kingdoms, the Tevinter, and the Templars all crumble under the resistance of those they oppress. As I said in the previous video, good storytelling never sides with the authoritarian.
What are you talking about? That's not... Okay, you know what? I need to calm down.
They're not siding with the authoritarians. They're making you choose.
They're asking...
And yes,
they're asking
because
you a question,
they can,
my guy.
And, like, yeah, I agree. Siding with the Templars, personally, to me, is the wrong fucking decision. Because they're authoritarian. I don't agree with siding with them. But they are giving you that option. Just because they give you that option does not mean they are siding with them. Or that they... Like, this is where she's just completely going off on just her own bullshit and throwing a bunch of shit onto the creators and the writer. That's just not at all... Like, basically, she's basically saying the fact that you even entertained a position that's different than mine, here's now why you're an awful person.
Yeah, like, I don't...
Furthermore, a lot of people really aren't...
Yeah, you're gonna say?
I don't get why she's bringing up something that happens in Inquisition, which is only an Inquisition thing. In Kirkwall, Hawke is not having to pick between Mages and Templars. She's having to pick between... fucking her sanity or everybody's fucking paycheck. Sorry.
I mean, there's a little bit of that, because you do have to choose if you side with what's it called, the fucking main mage that's kind of leading the rebellion, what's his face, or not. You do have to side with one of them, but like, she's completely going off on like fucking bullshit, basically, like trying to now say that somehow the writer is some horrible piece of shit person, or like or at the very least has completely destroyed their art because they even like attempted to like make it an option to like side with the authoritarian. Like, I just
that's so stupid.
Sorry, Lily, not everyone agrees with you, even if they make, in my opinion, wrong decisions.
Also, Lily, you got a lot of nerve.
Like,
everything you write is fucking incest coffee shop AUs. What the fuck are you talking about? You don't know how to write a story?
I mean, like, it's like, I'm the type of person that also agrees that, like, how you approach art and what it invokes in you and how you react to it does say something about you as a person. And so someone who would pick the Templars, yeah, it might make me side-eye them a little bit, because it's like, why are you siding with the authoritarian in this obviously oppressive system? Now, that might be out of ignorance on their part. Or because they feel that there's no other way.
Or
which can also be partially ignorance. Or they could be or they can themselves be an authoritarian. And if it's that latter one, then yeah, I might not like them as a person.
I did it just for game completion.
Lily has...
sorry, I just did it for game completion. I wanted both sides.
And that's also a perfectly valid reason. Lily has managed to actually do the Uno reverse on me as someone who is on her side in this conflict, in this dilemma. I agree with the option she chose. However, I completely disagree with her reasons for why she chose it. And that's the difference between me and her. Because while I do agree that the mages are the one more in the right morally than the Templars, and things like their use of blood magic to fight against the Templars is understandable if not justified. Like, or at least justified to an extent that I can forgive it. It's a I don't believe that mages are the essentially good option, and that there is no room to critique them.
I mean, if she
and
had
that's the
picked up Fenris, we would have gotten a literal whole entire cutscene that you have to go through of, no, this guy's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, well, she probably would have brushed that off with, well, the Tevinter Imperium are fucking horrible slavers and yada yada, and that's not emblematic of all mages. So she would brush it off.
I know, but like,
yeah.
Damn, lady, like, it's not good when we have you clocked this hard.
Yeah. Anyway, let's finish this. I want to be done.
Fair.
Where the fuck did I put it? There it is.
Good at handling nuance in the first place, even if you do write it correctly. There was a problem over the last 10 years where all types of media were really into the idea of victims of abuse becoming... Hell, they don't just like it, they love it. They think it's automatically good because hurt people. But they only like the appearance of the nuance involved in that kind of story, because you have to discuss the way in which one of these characters is a victim of abuse, the abusers as well. And being abusive, in reality, they equate victimhood with innocence.
Also, the thing that Lily misses in all these, because like I know the point she's trying to make, because I've heard her make it before. The point... Here's the thing, Lily. It's not about whether or not those people... Like, first off, those can bring up questions of, is what they're doing okay? Because, you know, those victims of abuse do end up doing horrible, terrible things. Now, that moral ambiguity is engaging. The other part that she's the other part here is like, they don't have to be good people to be engaging characters or have a good story.
That's true.
You don't have to portray victims of abuse as good people to have them be good characters or have a good story, or even have them be sympathetic characters. Like, even characters that you agree with, they can still be kind of terrible people.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a show.
Writers do this because it's engaging, because it makes for a good story.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever watched the show Shameless, but that's a...
No.
Okay. So the story is, this girl who is the oldest of, I think, 5 or 6 kids, who has been raising her siblings since she was, like, 9, lives in the projects. Let's just call it what it is. She lives in the projects.
Okay.
And she is a real asshole for a really long time. She doesn't give a fuck about anything except her younger siblings and everything. And she's very mean to everybody. She has a character change moment. She's still mean, but she's not doing it because she wants to be an asshole, but because she needs to start getting her siblings on the idea of, I need to get my life together. That means leaving you guys behind. Yeah. And they're abused kids, right? You come to figure that out watching it. They're all abused kids. So no, it's not hurt people. It's sometimes you have to be a bitch. I'm sorry.
Well, it's not even that. It's that it's people's. It's that the response to abuse and oppression and subjugation is not always justified.
No.
And that actually it can make for a very engaging story to be the person to look at it from a perspective of the person who's on the side of privilege, being the person critiqued by the villain or whatever, who is an oppressed person, who is basically saying, here's how everything you stand for fucked with me. And that can be actually really engaging storytelling, because now our hero or main character, protagonist, whatever, now has to grapple with that and somehow come to a conclusion of like, maybe they're actually right. Maybe I am in the wrong. Maybe I am the bad guy. That makes for engaging storytelling. Like, it's like, It's like, it'd be one thing for if Lily just said I didn't like it, but it's like, again, she always goes to her whole thing of like, no, this is intrinsically bad and not worth anyone's time. And ruins stories or whatever.
And refuse to acknowledge the victimhood of people who behave poorly as a result of their abuse. And they will shout that slogan not as an acknowledgement of nuance, but as a reason.
Oh, the other reason she doesn't like this is because, again, she essentializes, and so basically she sees, oh, you're a depressed person, everything you do is completely justified, and you're automatically a good person. Which is not how that works.
No.
To avoid thinking about the nuance. This is called a thought-terminating cliche. And a lot of people profess to like moral grayness because they are told it's smarter. They are told it's better. They are told it's more realistic. So they mold that supposition onto the things they all...
It generally is more realistic, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's smarter or better. I mean, I'll agree with that, but like sometimes a simple, straightforward black and white story is engaging and fun. But like, anyway, whatever.
Already like. This is also the case with creators themselves. When you start with a premise like, I need this conflict to be morally gray, how well you succeed depends on how well you understand what morally gray means. Gray does not mean justifiable. It does not mean balanced. If a character is morally gray, you do not know where they stand ethically. They are confusing. Their actions seemingly without consistency. That sense of
Wait, what? No. What? Wait, wait. Having having a character with ethical ambiguity and seemingly acting without consistency that's not the only version of morally gray. It's like you could also have a character that is completely morally consistent and is doing something and ends up doing something that you think is bad, but by their own moral system is perfectly justified. That doesn't, or that like they're doing something like the Templars, I think, are actually a good example where they're doing something that is a service to society that needs to happen in some form of another, but they're going about it in a terrible way.
Yeah, like that's kind of the ambiguity of this, is because the one Templar that's investigating the serial killer mage, he actually gives a fuck about the community he lives in, and he even says that he hopes it's not what he thinks it is, because he's suspicious that it might be a mage, because he doesn't want it to be a mage, because then, God, he doesn't even want to think about it. And in all honesty, fair, I don't want to think about it either. They didn't have to make him a mage, they could have made him just some asshole, but they wanted to let you know that, like, oh no, this bitch was really crazy, let us explain how.
Yeah, well, and it's again because Lily, because she essentializes, can't engage with the idea that maybe the mages might actually deserve some critique in some way.
Of unknown, of uncertainty, is what gray is. If there was a good reason or justification for their actions, that would not be morally gray. That would be morally fine. And if you're trying to make something
just because something has some justification does not mean that it's morally fine. You can have a justification and it not be justifying enough.
Yeah. Also, at what point, this is probably a better question. Mm-hmm. It's like, how much justification has to happen before it sounds like an excuse? Because that's what you're thinking of. Not...
Yeah.
The Templars have a reason for existing. It's not a good reason, but it is a reason. Mages can be very dangerous. We've seen it happen. That's why they're there. They're right assholes about it, but they still need to exist.
Yeah. Well, the Templars don't need to exist, but some form of helping mages manage their powers does need to exist. Anyway,
morally gray, perhaps don't draw immediate comparison to one of the most heinous crimes against humanity ever committed, and certainly don't draw comparison to two of them. A lot of this comes down to simple understanding of oppression. It doesn't.
The elves and Ferelden are not a comparison to slavery. You fucking moron. That'd be Tevinter. Jesus Christ.
It really surprised me that 2011 David Gator thought that there was an equivocacy between street crime and police brutality. That's how a lot of people with privilege see the world.
Okay.
So of course, cops and robbers ends up being.
She's just gonna bitch about fucking. Okay, now she's gonna try and.
She's gonna try to ad hoc her way into trying to be right.
You mean post hoc?
I don't know words.
Yeah. She's now trying to say that, like, oh, white man of privilege clearly doesn't understand oppression, yada yada. She's basically she's ad homing is what you're looking for.
Okay.
Story that comes out of that. And it's not like he's just stagnated over the years. Gator's most recent game is about a woman killing and escaping her abusive uncle husband. It's been 14 years since Dragon Age 2 released. I expected there to be some personal growth. And despite all my criticisms, I actually think Dragon Age 2 is the best Dragon Age game. It really gets into the mud with the Mage Templar conflict, and Marion's story herself is so gut-wrenchingly sad as she tries to keep the people she loves safe and slowly but surely loses them. In my mind, it really didn't matter how many arguments the Templars made. Marion sided with the Mages because that's where Bethany is, and she's not losing anyone else to these damn Templars.
They said...
Hey, didn't I say at the very beginning of this she already had her decision and then basically has just been justifying it the whole time?
Yeah. It's also really telling that she doesn't bring up the final the Qunari fight because, oof.
Yeah, at all. She doesn't bring up the Qunari at all, except for like the one little thing with the what is it, the Verishock or whatever the fuck?
Oh, also follow-up question, because she must have done the quest where the Qunari mage is a thing, and the Qunari on fucking Kirkwall.
Yeah, the Cerebos?
Yeah, it's like, bro, that's an actual thing, and giving up to the Qunari is basically a death sentence. Are we just gonna skip over that? Like, that's a big quest line.
Yeah, but again, but she doesn't think about that because she's already decided that mages are good. or that the situation for mages can somehow be worse. Like so she doesn't fucking like, so she doesn't fucking like register shit of like that like might be somehow a critique of mages. Anyway, we're almost done.
Someone was spying. We needed leverage. Someone they cared about as a hostage. We just got word they pulled some girl from the circle. Sister, I think.
You bastards kidnapped my sister.
With the benefit of hindsight, it was actually really bold to lower the stakes and make a more personal, emotional story, especially as the concept of the AAA mega game gets further and further away from emotional storytelling. Dragon Age 2 is extremely unique, not just among its own series, but among RPGs as a concept, and no matter how many criticisms I make of it, I will always love it for that. Supposedly there was a plan for Marion to become the new protagonist of the series, but sadly, the smaller scale story and the player sexual companions really pissed off the gamers TM at the time, and they made it their business to hunt down and terrorize one of the women on the writing team for supposedly gaying up their dark fantasy. The visceral proto-Gamergate backlash caused Bioware to pivot and return to a blank slate protagonist for Inquisition and get right back to the monster invasions, but we'll talk about Inquisition next time. I'm Lily, and thanks for watching.
Really quick, look at this art here that Michaela, her wife, drew. It looks like Meryl, who is the love interest, is the friend because it's the back hug, and then the sister gets the front titty hug. I'm just saying.
Given the allegations, it's weird.
It's weird.
Real fucking weird. Anyway, Jesus fucking Christ. I don't ever have to think about that again. Time to scrub my YouTube watch history.
So really quick, for those of you watching, after I get this edited and everything, the main point of Dragon Age 2 is the fact that it is a story that is happening right there with Origin.
There we go, done. I just scrubbed it.
Yeah. Which means the reason why all this terrible shit is happening in Kirkwall is because literally in Origin, the fucking world is on fire. And the reason why you meet Anders when you meet him is because he ran away from you, the Warden, in the first game and made it to Kirkwall and was hiding out in... Where was he? The sewers? I don't even remember where he was. Wherever he was.
Yeah, like the docks or some shit.
This is why it's really annoying, is because if you don't find, number one, all of the companions to at least get their backstory, you're missing out on a lot of the story in general. Fenris is a really good example of why Tevinter is not good for people who are not mages. It's also not good for people who are fucking elves in Tevinter. That's his story. That's his overarching storyline. What is Meryl's overarching storyline? Blood magic. Is blood magic good? Is blood magic bad? Well, every time we see it, somebody gets fucking possessed. Question mark on if it's good or not, because we haven't gotten there yet. That's a storyline for another game.
Yeah.
Anders, you're a fucking idiot.
I feel like I made my points. Lily's a fucking moron. She's obviously essentializing this conflict, making it simpler than it actually is, because she believes that like oppressed people can't be criticized for some fucking reason. I don't know. And then probably wrapping that under a guise of progressive politics when that's not how that actually works.
Oh, actually, I text messaged Laura while we were watching the video, and I screenshot her little list of everything, and I need to bring this out because Laura's husband is Indian, and she asked him this.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, all of these events are not taught to us in third world countries as they are to westernized countries. Westernized means anybody that's like European, Canadian, and American. That's westernized, right? Australia, New Zealand. Basically, those events don't play out the same way in a school that's being taught them. So it's really important to know that how we in the West are taught events is not the same way events are taught on the other side of the globe. And it's really important to remember that because what you consider a tragic event is not a tragic event somewhere else. You have to be okay with that.
Yeah, it's tiring watching something like that just because it's like it's so repetitive and monotonous and annoying because she is either lying or so immensely biased that it might as well just be lying. Probably a mix of both.
Well, I've always said
yeah,
it's like she needs somebody to go through her scripts and cut out the bloat. Like, stop repeating this. We just went over this.
Yeah. And it's it's basically just a giant jerk-off fest for why she's right and everyone else is wrong and everyone who disagrees with her is a terrible, awful person. Because, again, she essentializes. And so it goes beyond just essentializing the characters within the game. She essentializes herself and everyone else around her. So people that agree with her are good. Morally good. People that don't are morally bad. And that's why she acts the way she does. Because she essentializes, like a reactionary. It's like if we're going to start getting and throwing around like political labels, she acts like a reactionary, like a conservative.
Yeah.
Like a fascist, if you will.
Aztec. You can't say things that are true.
Yeah, so... Anyway, I'm about done with that. I'm fucking tired.
Yeah, so this has been Aztec, who has played these games, and the person who owns all the Dragon Age comics, discussing why Lily Orchard, you are wrong, and here's why.
Alright, like, subscribe, whatever. I need a nap.
Alright, good night, Aztec, and thank you guys for watching. Peace and blessings.